Most of the time, we approach that as sort of an intellectual exercise. I need to write my resume, I need to maybe talk to recruiters, maybe I need to network with friends, and it can be very painful as an exercise to go through, and there are inevitably obstacles along the way. And one of the patterns of change, you asked earlier about patterns of change, is that resistance is a part of the journey, even when we choose to take the journey. We don't know what we don't know when we get started, so we tend to resist when those unknowns become known and appear insurmountable. So, and here's where I bring some neuroscience in.
Please.
I work with my clients to create a story from the future. Not a story about the future, but a story from the future. Stories about the future, again, tend to be fairly intellectual. The neuroscience that comes into play here, and not every neuroscientist will use this language, but they'll all agree with the facts behind it. In our hearts, we have the same motor neurons, the same sensory neurons, the same electrochemical activity as happens in our heads. In our guts, we have about as many neurons as in a cat's brain. Some neuroscientists will call it the cephalic or head brain, the cardiac or heart brain, and the enteric or gut brain. Others will talk about the cephalic brain and the neural networks or neural clusters in the heart and the gut. 90% of the communication is upward from heart and gut into our heads. So, first of all, listening to your heart, listening to your gut is not some sort of woo-woo. It's real.
Yes.
There is science behind it. The story from the future is a head, heart, gut story. Actually, last piece of neuroscience here, the brain can't tell the difference between story and reality. So if I continue to revisit that story from the future, I'm building new neural networks as if I'm actually there. So when we run into those supposedly insurmountable obstacles on the journey, our unconscious goes to work because it knows what it's like to be on the other side of them. So we begin with the story from the future. This is what it's like now that I have this new job. Now we start preparing, not planning, which is what most people do, but we only plan for what's in our awareness. The preparation calls up those things that are not in our awareness that can get in the way. Again, what are the anchors? What are the adjustments we need to make to those anchors? What anchors do we need to let go of? What anchors do we need to hold on to, or what new anchors do we need? Maybe your new job is taking you to Costa Rica and you have to learn Spanish. What are the limitations? What are those things that I won't accept in a new job? What are those things I must have? What are the nice to haves? Now we can begin the planning, and the planning is a rolling kind of activity as we move through the journey. So this week I'm going to make 10 networking calls. Next week I'm going to make another 10 networking calls and get at least 2 meetings. Keep on rolling the planning forward as you take the journey. And then there's living in that new reality, because things have changed. Even if you're doing the same, let's say you're an accountant. I can't imagine Eddie as an accountant, but let's say you are an accountant. You're still going to be doing accounting maybe, but in a different environment. Maybe with different software, definitely with different people around you, with a different commute.